Hey guys, Ezekiel Dasho here, and now that we're all warmed up and we drew some circles, I wanted to do this quick vid about drawing an eye. I just found this link on the Creative Commons, and I've got it here on the screen so you can use it for your reference. And so let's begin. So one of the things I like to do when I'm drawing an eye is start with sort of the round shape, the perimeter of the iris, using a 4B pencil, and I'm pressing very, very lightly. And I'm not worrying so much about any of the overall shape or anything right now. I'm just getting my round circle onto the paper, and that'll be a sort of place to start from. So let's see here. Right now I'm just kind of thinking about getting everything on the picture sort of roughed in, and I'm not too worried about making mistakes or anything like that. This is sort of the brainstorming phase here, and rather than worrying about editing or fixing or making corrections or anything, we're just get the general shapes down so that we have a good place to begin. I apologize in advance. I'm relatively atrocious with anatomy, and I'm self-taught, so I don't have a lot of the terminology at the ready like I probably should, but drawing an eye, just like drawing anything else. You just draw what you see, and you sort of, what's the best way to put this? You make everything relative to everything else in the picture so that it's in its correct place. I think a good bit of advice that I've picked up is with eyes is to only leave one small part of it white, if anything. You want to make sure everything's got a little bit of shading and texture. So I'm going to block out this little area here as kind of like the area that's going to stay the brightest. And looks like if you look in closely, it's kind of like the reflection of a white or yellow building or barn or something. And there are some trees in the background on the horizon. And so that's what these little white dots over here would be. But for now, it's enough to know that, to just have this impression of the structure here. And maybe a little more, the roof of the structure would be darker. And the base is a little lighter, so let's see, that kind of is actually relatively well defined in the reflection of this person's eye. Definitely one of the things that I found is there, like for the whites of the eyes, you don't want to just leave it white. You want to add the value that you see there. So if it's off white, if it's a little darker than white, or darker than the brightest value you're going to have in your picture, then you can add a little bit of something there. And as we go along, we can sort of add more to the shadows there to make it look truer to form. But if you leave it just white, it's just going to look flat and awkward and weird. And the way to make it look bright, even though you've colored it in gray or whatever, is to just darken the areas around it. So a little later we'll darken the eyelashes, and that will help contrast. And the iris will be much darker too, so that'll help contrast the whites of the eye. For now, I just want to get a little tone on there so that we have something to base the darker shades against when we start darkening those up. And there's this reflection here with that tear duct. Okay, so nice one. Thick eyelashes. Now, I mean, I'm going for realism here, but I'm not going to push in and go for hyper-realism. It would take a little longer, and I don't want to chop the video up. I just want to kind of do a demo for people, especially for newer people. And let's see this fold here. And you can see in the top of her iris, there is a quite a bit of reflection of the eyelashes, and adding those in will definitely help. Like, I'm not gonna go in there with a with laser beam and make sure that each one is photorealistic. I just want to have this be a little more freer and feel like more like a drawing than a photograph. So let's see, it looks like she must be inside or something, because there's a relatively stark line of shadow that's, maybe she's under a porch or something like that. So now that we've got the general shape, and start really pressing in with some shading here, and see if we can idealize this thing a little bit. So, subtle shadow on the lid. And subtle reflection on the lid here too. And it's something where if I was going to spend a lot of time, put a lot of time into this, I might, there are a number of ways you could treat that. You could start with for instance, like an HB or a harder pencil and take care of that with that rather than just jump in with a 4B. You could use a kneading eraser or something along those lines, an electric eraser or whatever. I tend to just not really mess with erasers or shaders. It just isn't. I mean, I enjoy them, but they're just for some reason I tend to just want to draw and not mess with erasing and stuff like that. Let's see. So kind of adding in some of the shadows and let's see. The pupil of the eye is almost entirely black, and that's going to be along with the this spot up here in the eyelashes, that's going to be the darkest value in a picture. So I might as well just fix that up now. Kind of have to press in a little harder, I find, for these, which I tend to not want to do, but having the contrast will help for the overall look of the thing when it's done. Okay. I've got some squigglies here. Some lighter and some darker. How meticulous you want to be with the details is up to you, and everybody's got their own thing that they're going for in any given piece. So in this one I'm just gonna kind of play it fast and loose a little bit and just kind of enjoy being free to express it, get the gist of it kind of, and not worry about it too much. So my cat's trying to make a cameo. And rather than do one eyelash at a time, I tend to want to kind of make them a bunch of ahead and add some eyelashes and reflections in here. And let's make this house thing and the trees a little more visible. There are some windows in the house. One of the things that makes the eyes look so reflective is obviously is the image of what they're reflecting. And you could get in there and get pretty detailed with this particular picture because the photographer really got a lot of that. Let's see, get my values right over here. It's a little too light. And getting to this point, it starts to kind of just be the touching up phase, and it's just all depending on how much detail you want to throw in there. So we'll go and make some of these lower eyelashes darker. They are pretty dark. She must have makeup on or something. Or maybe not. Maybe she just got very defined lower eyelashes. Oh, here we can do a little bit of this, do some little small soft circles over here on the side to kind of add to the sort of sphericity of the white of the eye here near the tear duct. There is a good amount of shadow there. It's a nicely lit photograph. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave out the little capillaries or whatever. So there's really no trick behind this. It's just sort of being delicate and thinking about, where things are, just looking at what you see and, kind of building it up and then making subtle adjustments as needed as you go. Like I probably could lower this down a little bit and here to make it more accurate to what the information in the picture. But you know, if you're delicate the whole time, you'll find that you've got a lot of room to maneuver. When you need to make changes, you don't need to erase or anything. You can just sort of adjust it as you go and build it up. And the layers underneath tend to add a lot of character to the drawing, in my opinion. And they show your process, and they show added depth, I think. So again, it's just a quick little video to show a way to kind of approach looking at simple shapes and making it into getting the picture that you see in front of you onto the paper. And I hope this has been useful, and I always invite comments and suggestions. Also, if it has been useful to you, please like, and if you are interested in seeing more, definitely hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time.